My name is Anthony Desiato. For over 10 years, I shopped, worked, and hung out at a comic book store in Westchester, New York called Alternate Realities. It was the best after-school job a kid who loved comics could possibly ask for. More than a job, it was a clubhouse, a second home. Alternate Realities closed in 2015. But even though my comic shop is history, there's a whole world of stores out there. This season, on My Comic Shop History, I am bringing those stores, the business, the culture, and the fandom, to you as I speak to retailers around the country. Be part of the journey. Welcome to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. This episode, my trek to comic shops across America, brings me to Packrat Comics, just outside Columbus, Ohio. I'm very honored to be joined by the husband and wife team who own and run Packrat, Jamie and Teresa Colegrove. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Being that you are a husband and wife team, I thought it would be appropriate to make this episode a double date. So we're also welcoming back to the show my now wife, Stephanie Desiato.
Hello, everyone.
This is actually your first time on the show since we got married.
Yes, it is. It's my debut as the wife.
That's right. And speaking of weddings, that's actually the reason why we're in town and we were able to make this happen. I am in the wedding of one of my best friends from high school, and his soon-to-be wife is from Columbus. So we're in town for the wedding. Last night was the bachelor party, and we are here now the morning after. You guys have the distinction of being the earliest recording in My Comic Shop history. So thank you for joining me bright and early.
You're welcome. The benefit of being in this industry is you typically don't start working till 11 in the morning.
11 o'clock. This is way early for us.
Yes, well, I appreciate you being here and being able to do this before store hours. So Steph and I had the opportunity to come to the store yesterday just to kind of scope everything out. And we just had a great time walking around and taking it all in. And there's so much that I want to talk to you about in terms of your store and everything you guys do. I know you do a lot of events and have a strong presence on social media. And that actually brings me to, I guess, my jumping off point, the reason that I found out about you guys. And this is probably the way a lot of people found out about Packrat Comics. So in January of this year, you guys posted a photo on social media of you, Jamie, sitting next to a stack of unclaimed comic books.
Yes.
That you were left with when your reservists, the people who have pull lists with you, did not come to pick up their books. And there was a sign accompanying the stack of books, and it cited a figure, $1,481.20, and that was the amount of stock that you were left with as a result of delinquent customers. And the photo went a bit viral. Bleeding Cool did a story on it.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So if you don't mind just telling me what kind of led to that, what was the impetus for that post?
We typically clean out delinquent customers on a pretty regular basis. Every week as we do pulls, we check purchase histories, who's been in, who hasn't. And about every 3 months, we pull out a significant number like we did. And we just felt it was time that the consumers knew what they would leave their retailers with when they moved, when they lost their job, and didn't notify the retailer. It wasn't intended to target anyone. It was just kind of a public service announcement that, hey, your retailers do pay for this up front. They've ordered this book for you. They didn't order it for anyone else. They didn't anticipate selling it to some other customer walking in that was interested in maybe Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We bought this specifically for you. And now it's just extra inventory. So Jamie said, hey, I want you to total that up and tell me what that is. And so I sat at our POS for a little bit and scanned it all in and got that number. And we figured the visual mix of not just a stack of books, but the dollar amount, the stack of books, and Jamie's,
my sad face.
His sad face kind of was a nice representation that would grab everyone's attention. And it worked. And we tried to make it a public service announcement to get to your local comic shop and pick up your books. Let them know if you can't make it. And I think it hit home with a lot of retailers. We were very surprised because we didn't expect it to go as viral as it did.
Yeah, we got stores from all around the world that had emailed us or texted us and said, hey, thanks for putting that out there. that we have the exact same problems.
Were there any stores in particular that you were surprised to hear from?
There was a couple in Columbus that we were surprised that reached out and had said a few things. So again, it wasn't something that retailers like to talk about. It's really embarrassing. We had a few retailers that were like, hey, I wish I'd have done that. And I'm like, well, there was a lot of hate that went along with that and a lot of how to run your business that went along with that. So I would gladly have shared that with someone else.
Yeah, they could have done that. They could have, I read every single one of those comments that people left. So thank you for letting me know how terrible of a job that I was doing running my business.
Yeah, I spent some time in advance of our trip here. I spent some time going through as many of your posts as I could, but that one in particular, and I went through the comments. There were a number that stood out, but one in particular was from a customer. I don't know if specifically a customer of yours or just a customer generally, but it made me laugh. He was like, I really didn't understand what the pull list meant. I thought it was just guaranteeing that there would be a copy for me, but not that I was committed to actually buying it, which is shocking to me as someone who's spent a lot of time working at a store and shopping at a store. But maybe that's representative of a larger problem, this lack of education on the part of the consumer. They, as you were getting at, they might not realize that you order 3 months in advance. That comment in particular really struck. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that one. It was very funny. I was like, well, that guy needs educated for sure.
And now that number, the almost $1,500 number, was that the retail value or cost?
It was retail.
That was retail value. Okay. Yeah, it was really something. And like I said, I know Bleeding Cool did a story on it. Were you surprised at just how much it kept building?
It escalated really quickly. We did not expect that at all. I forget who the first person that shared it. I think it was another comic shop, maybe out of West Virginia, that, I don't know, they retweeted it, and it just went super viral after that. So I was pretty excited.
Yeah. So the store where I spent most of my time is Alternate Realities in Westchester, New York. The store is no more. It closed in 2015. But delinquent customers, that was a problem that we faced. The owner, his name is Steve, quite a character. His system was if people didn't pick up their books within a certain period of time, they were declared dead, where he would usually stop pulling. Sometimes he'd keep pulling, but their folder would get pulled from the filing cabinet. It would be placed on the side. And then eventually, if enough time passed, they would be declared dead. And then that was really it.
Super dead.
Really dead. There's really no... if you're dead, you can kind of come back to life. But once you're dead, that's pretty much it. And so at that point, we would break down the file. We would make a list on cardboard, writing by hand, each title and issue number and the retail value. I don't quite know what he did with that information, but he had it.
He had it just in case that customer came back in wanting their pull system, and he goes, no, look, this cardboard piece that I have totals on. Yeah. That's why he did it.
That's similar to what we would do, too, is if we pulled a customer and they didn't respond to any email or any requests, if they were still interested, we would make note, like, their last visit was on this day, and we pulled this many dollars worth of books. They're no longer a subscriber, because they would come in like a year later expecting their comics to be on hold, and we're like, no, we've got nothing for you. You hadn't been in for 18 months. What do you...
Sometimes they don't realize they've been gone so long, and they go, no, I was just here last month, and you pulled up, their report, and no, you haven't been here in 7 months. Oh, it's been 7 months. Oh, I've been here before that. Well, you didn't pick up your pull if you did. But that happens a lot.
What is the official policy? Do they have a certain amount of time within which they're supposed to pick up?
They have a month.
They have a month.
Yep.
Okay. But then you'll make arrangements if people communicate with you.
We can figure out their patterns.
Right.
So
that was the same thing for us. Yeah, we had kids who were going away to college, and so we knew they weren't going to be around for a semester. But then when school was on break, they'd come in and they'd pick up their books. Did you find after that post, did any of your delinquents come back?
Yes. Yes, it was very busy the next day.
Well, good for you. That had, a couple of great results that you were able to raise awareness and bring people back in.
We did. And then every week it's, they clear out their boxes. So it's been very good.
So you've noticed that's continued since then?
It has continued, yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. That's good to hear. Was there any fear? I know you said that, the purpose of it wasn't to, call people out, but is there any... did you get any backlash on that front that you were sort of, publicly shaming, not individual people, but the, customers as a whole?
I don't know. If the customers felt that way, then I think they had made that mistake. I think it all is just how you take it. I think we talked about it yesterday, looking at the negative or looking for the positive. Again, we were just doing it as a positive. Hey, this goes on in the comic book industry. Get your stuff if you want it. And others, as customers, you could take it as a negative, like, oh, how dare you? But I have no control over how someone reacts to something. Like, it's just, here are the facts. You can be upset, or you can just say, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I should get my comics. But I mean, we're not big pushers of our subscriber system. It's great, and we want people to join, but at the same time, we wait for them to establish a purchase pattern anyway before, as they're coming to the store weekly or monthly, so we can kind of gauge that, oh, this person's going to come in every month to get their pull. They're going to come in every week. So we're not, the first time we see somebody, we're not out there encouraging them to join a subscription service. It's kind of a wait and see for us. What is your dedication to the comics, before we try to get you on board and hook you with the subscription service.
Subscription service.
And from what I understand, I was very interested to learn this. I was on your website because this was actually one of the things I was curious about as I'm visiting all of these stores. Our pull list, it was just a paper form that you fill out, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But you guys actually have a digital pull list, correct?
We do.
Through Comixology?
Yes.
How has that been working out for you? Because that's something that I thought would, I would imagine that would help this process.
We've been using it since 2008. A lot of retailers are reluctant. We have no problem with the service, other than obviously technical bug issues that happen from time to time. But it does give customers the freedom to stop pulling their books, or to cancel their subscription and move to another store if they move. That kind of freedom, the guilt-free freedom, of changing their pulls. But it also gives them the opportunity to add books that are coming out, that are new releases that they hear, oh, I just read this on Bleeding Cool. I need to make sure I subscribe to this title. And they can do it at 2:00 in the morning without making sure we got an email, or without calling us or leaving a message or something like that. So that works really well. We absolutely love the system. We wish it could incorporate better into our Diamond POS system, but we'll take what we've got and we'll work with it and do the best we can. We also have a paper pull subscription option on there too, so they can easily download that paper and bring it in.
The Diamond POS works pretty well for their subscription service that they offer on that. It's not so bad, but I do like the Comixology one much, much better.
I mean, that's a great resource that's there, and hopefully that will continue to grow and be developed, and more stores will be able to implement it. I guess sort of the last thing on this note of delinquent customers, because this was something that, the first season of this podcast was all about the closing of alternate realities. So we talked about this a lot then.
That was a sad episode, I guess.
A little bit, yeah. The last episode, the whole first season was about it, but the last episode in particular, it was myself, the store's owner, and a long-time employee who, we're all like family. And it got pretty emotional. There were some tears and I love yous, and it was a whole thing. It was really sad to say goodbye to the store, honestly. But it's been, kind of prompted me to do this and now come to visit other stores as I'm searching for a new one. But, the delinquent customers, this came up all the time. And, we would sometimes butt heads with the owner because we had, some suggestions for things that he could do to possibly alleviate the delinquent customer problem. And I know that when you posted the photo, you got a lot of those similar suggestions. Things like, requiring a deposit or paying a fee to have your books pulled, or making people prepay, keeping a credit card on file. And again, like our owner, he was always opposed to that for various reasons. I was curious, though, if you don't mind sharing some of the reasons why you guys don't do that.
I think when you start to get to holding customers' credit cards on file, credit cards are, stolen, they're lost, they're misplaced. So they're constantly, new numbers and new expiration dates. So having a credit card on file, is my customer going to constantly update their credit card information every time they get a new card? Obviously not. Sometimes you have bills that are automatically drafted out of your accounts that you forget about when you get your new card every 4 years. So then the next thing you know, your phone's turned off because it's not charged on your card anymore. So I think the credit card solution, while it sounds great, in reality isn't as easy as it sounds. The security issues that we would have to undergo to keep those cards on file is a whole nother compliance issue that we would have to worry about. And as a small business owner, we just don't have the time or resources to do that with credit cards. As far as a deposit, how long do you hold that deposit? What is in good standing at the point where you return that money back to a client, and then a few months later, now you're stuck with the books once you've already returned the money. So that is another, what does that do kind of thing. And then as far as a pay service, the subscription service is a symbiotic relationship between the retailer and the consumer in a sense that it gives us an idea on how to gauge our orders. We don't know how many people are interested in X-Men, without the subscription service. If, 30 people wanted the new X-Men Gold, we could take that number and do our little math and add the books and have books for the shelf. So the subscription service is again, it's a symbiotic thing that works together with the consumer and the retailer, and it's beneficial. And so to penalize or add restrictions or something on the consumer end just doesn't seem like something that is a viable option. As a retailer, we want people to come into the service naturally. We want them to come in and flow and like, oh, I really love this series. I missed a couple issues and I don't want that to happen again because I love it so much. And that's where it becomes that habit where they want to come in and enjoy it. And it's not a bill. I need to read that next issue. So to create this kind of prepay service or credit card takes the fun and joy out of it. So that's the risk that we'll take as the retailer to try and keep you enjoying it and having as much fun as possible, because comics at the end of the day, it's the most fun industry to be in. I don't know how people can sit there and be negative about your job in comic books, like whether you're writing them, whether you're selling them, whether you're reading them, whether you get to review them online. That's your job. Like, embrace that and be grateful that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and these guys have created an opportunity for thousands of people to do this for a living and to talk about it and to enjoy it in the theater. So we can't do that.
Yeah.
I also got the sense from, reading some of the responses that, ultimately, in terms of your entire customer base, this is a relatively small portion, who are delinquent, right?
Yeah, it's a very small portion.
Yeah. I mean, your enthusiasm for this, I mean, I'm hearing it now. And Jamie, I want to get to some of your, the Facebook videos that I've been seeing, these new comic day videos.
I don't know who that guy is that makes those videos.
It's, I mean, if you don't mind describing, because I was going through and I saw typically on Wednesday, New Comic Book Day, you'll post a quick little
every
video
Wednesday,
snippet.
I'll make a new video. It's hard to do sometimes. It's really, everything is spontaneous. I'll wait till everybody's out of the store because I don't do it in front of people. So I'll wait till everybody's done, and then I never think of an idea. I just turn the camera on, and then something happens, and I make a new comic day video. That's my process of how I do it.
I think the scariest one is the clown video. I don't know if you made it far.
I don't know that I saw that.
No,
one.
There's a scary clown where I'm like, I murder the customer in a clown costume. Pretty scary.
I'll have to check that out. We'll share it on the My Comic Shop history page. But yeah, I mean, with both of you, the fact that, you still have this passion and enthusiasm for it, I mean, it's evident and it's great to see. I want to toss it over now to Mrs. Desiato. So again, we were able to spend maybe about an hour in the store yesterday and just kind of take everything in. And I want to shift now and really talk about your store specifically beyond delinquent customers and that business. And Steph, when we left, I asked you, what your impression was of the store and the interactions you observed between Teresa and the customers. So what were your impressions of Packrat yesterday?
So, as someone who's never read a comic book in her life, I've been to a lot of comic shops. No, I'm just kidding. I have read comics. But this has been quite a journey, and I've visited more comic shops in the past few years than ever before. But as soon as I walked into Packrat, there was a positive vibe and a great energy that was welcoming, and the store is bright and organized, and it's a place where I think people would feel welcome and excited to go to pick up their new comics or back issues or trades. So that was my overall sense. And then getting to see Teresa in action with some of the customers was great. That upbeat and positive, again, energy, which you definitely comes naturally to you. And I think that's also important to you. So you definitely put that effort forth, it seems, to really help the customers, make sure everyone gets what they need and is being served. So that was my overall impression. So I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like you knew the customers, asking the kid if they're happy to be out of school. And I think there was it might have been that same customer, maybe someone else who was looking to buy bags and boards, and they had the wrong combination of sizes, and you helped them out. And this was, really just moments before closing, at the end of the day. So to still have that amount of energy at that point, it's commendable. Is that typically how you are?
Yeah, I think so for the most part. I'm powered by Red Bull. I don't know if that's... I get a nickel every time I say that. No, I just... back to what I said earlier, I'm absolutely grateful to be able to sell comics for a living. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I love the customers. I love what we do. I don't know, other than working at a toy store, I think this is probably...
Yeah, a toy store would be pretty great.
Yeah.
But
You
we
have a good amount of
do
action figures.
work at a toy store.
We do have a lot of toys.
So.
That's fair. But, I mean, generally, I like to just call us a comic book store.
Listen, you have some of those vintage Power Ranger Zords. You
Yes.
don't know how tempted I am. If not for the fact that we are in the process of looking for a new place to live and packing. We're going in the direction of trying to clear our place out. That coupled with the fact that we have to fly home. If not for that, I don't know, we might be leaving with some
We can
Zords.
ship.
We could
Thanks.
always mail it to you.
Uh-oh. The Power Rangers are quite tempting. But yeah, it's a terrific store. The amount of space that you guys have is mind-boggling to me. I mean, you guys have your main floor. Do you have the approximate dimensions of that you could share? If not,
The main floor or the entire store?
The upstairs,
either,
I think
guess.
the upstairs runs
Yeah.
about 4,000 square feet.
Yeah, about 4,000 square feet. And the
And
basement.
the basement's about 4,000 square feet, but he
Yeah.
cut half of it off so he could make T-shirts.
Yeah, one half it's I make custom T-shirts, mostly for myself, but I also do them for comic book creators that need T-shirts done.
But yeah, no, I mean, the amount of space that you guys have to work with, and then where we're recording right now, so next to your main space, you have this entire gaming room, which is, I think, larger than Alternate Realities was. And you have tables and chairs set up in here for your customers to come in and play.
Yeah, this started out, it was going to be when our landlord offered it for lease, they knew we needed some storage. We have so much stuff at our house, and they're like, here's this, you can store your stuff here. And we're like, okay, this will work. This will be great. We can get our house back. And that weekend, when we agreed to sign the lease, a friend of ours came in and said, hey, my art school's lost funding. We don't have any place to teach kids that are interested in pursuing art as a career. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. He was really sad. And Jamie walks him over to the space and he's like, is this big enough? And he lit up. He said, absolutely. So the space went from a storage space to being an open part of our store, which was nice because it brought the gaming tables, because we had a few gaming tables next door. It brought it out of the store and brought it to this kind of its own space, obviously. And now they can play, and we go home and they lock the door when they leave, and it's really nice because I don't have to, look at the clock and say, hey guys, you need to wrap this turn up. I close in 20 minutes or whatever. They can just keep playing as late as they want. And it's really nice.
It's just striking. And the store itself, I was really impressed. Again, everything, I mean, you're very well stocked, and everything is, again, as Steph was saying, clean and bright and well organized. And more so, I think, than other stores I've been to, I was really struck by the flow of it. And I was curious if you could kind of tell me what the thought process was behind how you laid out the store, because it feels like each corner you turn, there's something new to discover. Like there's a section of Pops in one area of the store, and there's a decent amount there, but I thought that was it. And then I went to more of your toy section, and then there were a ton of Pops. So the flow of it was definitely striking to me.
Well, we've been doing this for 24 years now, and just watching customers' habits. I know that sounds ridiculous, but watching them walk through the store, and to make it easy to transition from one thing to the next. I think as retailers, we had our kids early, and so we've got in the back of our mind, being parents as well as comic book retailers, that kind of shifted things for us very early on, in making it accessible for strollers and making it accessible for mom and making it accessible
Wheelchairs and
for
everything
grandma. When you walk into the front door, there's 2 chairs there. That's not always for the girlfriend. Sometimes it's for the boyfriend or the husband that sit in the chair.
Or the dad. I think there was a dad.
There
I
was
saw
a dad,
yesterday.
yeah. So, I mean, it's a really nice, the dad and his daughter that had come in. Yeah, the dad was sitting there. So just having that different experience early on really shaped and molded how we laid out the store. And then we constantly
stand at the front door and look around and see.
And whenever we go to
yeah.
a different store, whatever it is, we're looking and seeing what is laid out. How can we incorporate this in our store?
Well, you've done a great job with it. So, it's sort of a tradition. The show's called My Comic Shop History. And typically when I bring in new guests, one of the first questions I ask is, what is your comic shop history? So I know a little bit, at least of Jamie's, from the About section of your website. But if you don't each mind telling me, how you each got into this hobby in the first place.
Well, I got into it because of my brothers collected comic books, and then all my uncles collected comics. And my uncle from West Virginia ended up giving me his collection, or part of his collection, which was a huge Gold and Silver Age collection. I eventually lost that collection in 1980, right after John Lennon died, in a flood.
Oh, man.
So I lost, I don't know, $1 zillion worth of Silver Age stuff. But I kept collecting from then on, everything all the way up until, yesterday.
That's quite the career there. And in the beginning, where did you typically get your comics?
I got them from TGMY is where I got my stuff at, which was like a local junk store that they had at the time. That you could buy 3 comics at one time, which I loved it. And then I would pick them up from Bill's Food Mart, which was right around the corner.
That's one aspect of comic shop history in general that I'm interested in is, we're always talking about comic shops in particular, but obviously there was a time when there weren't comic shop specialty shops at all, or even when they did start, if you weren't in an area where there were any, you were relegated to getting them in other, whether it's delis, the newsstand. I think I read you got them at a gas station.
I got them at a gas station, yeah,
next to the hot dogs.
That was Bill's Food Mart.
There you go. So that's something that's interesting to me, and probably something I would try to pursue down the line a little bit is, really more of like the history, the rise of the comic shop. And then Teresa, what about yourself?
We used to go to a restaurant after church on Sundays, and they would have Archie comics for the kids to read, and I would read it every Sunday, whatever they had there, and I enjoyed that. And then we had a gentleman came to our school, a Catholic school of all things, on career day, talking about, his comic book business that he ran. And I mean, this is in the 80s, and you're like, that's a thing? Like,
I went to Catholic school from pre-K through college. We never had anyone come and talk to us about comics. So I went to the wrong Catholic school.
You sure did. We sure did. And then, I met Jamie and we were dating, and they started selling those like the Topps trading cards with Marvel and DC characters. And it's not that I read a lot of Marvel or DC at the time. Like I said, a lot of it was Archie. And we were going to the gas station buying these cards, and then there was a little shop in Hilliard that opened up, and we're buying these cards, and then all of a sudden I'm reading Silver Surfer and I'm reading Fantastic Four, and it was the era of Image. So, here's some Spawn and Savage Dragon and Valiant, and then we get married, and then we're like, hey, we can do this. We're stupid and young. We don't have any responsibility. So we did, and it just kind of steamrolled and snowballed from there, and it's been fun, and we've been very lucky.
That's terrific. Well, so you started with Archie. Stephanie, that was your introduction to the world of comic books as well.
It was my start, getting them from the Berlin Mart in southern New Jersey.
This Berlin Mart, we actually went there when we were visiting Steph's parents recently, and because it's this indoor flea market, and not the place where she got her comics, but there's now a dedicated comic book stand in there.
There was no comic shop at the time when I was growing up, but now there is.
There is now, but we were foiled. They were closed when we got there.
Oh, that's all right.
The market was open for another hour or so, but I don't know if they were closed for the day or left early. It was very disappointing, though. Next time, though.
They don't like money.
No, I think the great thing about Archie, though, is it's such a universal comic. My youngest son, he loved Archie. Like when Archie got married, he flipped out. He could not believe that he married Veronica. Like, he just went insane. And he had his little section, because again, having kids early on, we've always had a kids section. He would always gear the kids over, like, come on over with me, I'll show you where the comics we can read are. Because as a retailer, not all books are designed for kids. You'd be surprised how many parents are like, hey, they can read Walking Dead, they can get Deadpool. I'm like,
it's a funny book.
They're 8. No. You look through it and you tell me if it's okay, and they do. Most of them are fine, but no, my youngest was always very, very proactive in showing and encouraging the kids. Check out Archie. Check out Sonic. These are my favorite over here. Like, he would grab them as soon as they walked into the store, and just he was a magnet. And now he's selling comics now in our Marysville store, so it's pretty crazy.
That's right. You guys have a second location.
We do, yes.
So that's the one that your son runs?
Yes, both of them do, I guess.
Yeah, both of them run it.
Yeah, our oldest is 21, and he graduated high school, didn't know what he wanted to do, and he's like, hey, I know comics. I'll do that for a while. And we were cool with it. We were like, that's a great idea. You don't know what you want to do. It gives you some experience kind of managing yourself, time management, kind of self-motivation, and until you figure out what you want. And now he's going to school now, but it's a great opportunity for him. It's really exciting to watch him kind of discover what it is he wants to do without going into debt.
So circling back to Packrat, you guys opened 93?
Yes.
1993.
So where does the name come from?
It was either Packrat Comics or I thought about Hole in the Wall Comics, but that was quickly thrown out the window. I don't exactly remember how it came about, but it's kind of what you do with your comic books is you pack them away. So I was like, well,
we were cleaning your parents' pool, and you were coming up with the hole in the wall. Yeah. And I completely said, no, that's a bad idea. I said, people tend to pack their comics away, and it just kind of went to Packrat. Yeah.
It's a great name and logo. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, you have an adorable little mouse or rat logo. Was that designed and drawn by you, or did you have someone
originally, I drew a different one. He was more of like a bodybuilder, little mouse. We used him for a long time until the space that we're in now used to be a dance studio. Mrs. Peggy used to run it, and she came over to us and she said that the logo scared the children. So we immediately had one of our out-of-work comic book creators draw us a new logo. So he came up with that one, and it was beautiful. So that's the one we ran with.
Yeah, and you have an animated version of it as well, right?
We do, yeah. A couple of our customers have turned it into a little animation character. There's a Pac-Man video game where somebody had taken the whole family and the mouse and turned it into Pac-Man. Pretty cool. I don't know where it went to, but it was on our old website, but I lost it. But it's out there. Find it.
That's really cool. So, my production company is Flat Squirrel Productions, and the logo is a cartoon flat squirrel. It would be kind of cool, though, to have it animated. Actually see it get flattened.
Oh, that might be a little too morbid.
Squirrels. That's not.
We have squirrels.
No, that was going to be my segue. As I was going through your Facebook post, I saw that you rescue squirrels, and this was just the other day. I said, "How perfect is this? Flat Squirrel is coming to Packrat. You guys save squirrels. It's like this is fate." Well, I mean, it could not be more fitting. Can you please tell me about how you save these squirrels?
A couple of years ago, some baby squirrels, they couldn't have been more than 3 weeks old, had fallen from a nest in our front yard. And I was like, no, leave them out there. That's gross. And my husband had been telling my children since they were wee little tots about how when he was younger, he had a pet squirrel named Skippy. And so my oldest son had been dreaming of the day when I didn't know this, he'd been dreaming of the day when he would have a pet squirrel of his own. So here's his opportunity. He's like, Mom, please, we got to keep it. And we, go to Google and we're like, okay, you got to leave it out there for a couple of hours, wait for Mom to come back. Mom didn't come back. So we brought it in and we did the whole rescue bit, and they were fall babies. So you keep them through the winter and you release them in the spring. And that's exactly what we did. It went off well. The following year, somebody said, hey, I have this baby squirrel. I hear you rescue them. And I'm like, okay.
They're so adorable.
They're so adorable. I trained them like puppies. When they were in the cage in the house, I would shake a little bag of nuts so they knew I was coming with the treats. So when I release them outside, when I shake the nuts, they would come running. And I swear to God, it works.
It works. And if you have like a bag of chips, like the neighbors found out, they shake their bag of chips going to the car. The squirrels came to and jump on them and they freak out.
But yeah, and somebody called me later and they're like, hey, I hear you rescue animals. I have this raccoon. And I said, no.
We took the raccoon.
He's like, I'm just going to leave it out here to die. And I'm like, you can't do that. Bring me the raccoon. I have no idea what to do with a raccoon. So we rescued this little raccoon, and she turned out to be pretty healthy and okay. So we fed her, and we cleaned her and bathed her, got the ticks off of her, and then we had her. I think just maybe a week, and we let her go, and she was fine. Well, she ran from you.
Yeah, we immediately let it go. We didn't want to get those whatever that parasite is that gets in your brain and eats your brain. We didn't want that, so.
No.
We got rid of that raccoon.
And then we had friends 2 months ago. They're like, hey, we cut a tree down. You rescue squirrels, right? There were squirrels in the tree. And I'm like, bring them on. So I've had 3 litters of squirrels. And it's fun. It's like the best pet because they're cuddly. And then you can release them outside and you're not cleaning up and you don't have to feed them all the time. But then they come back to your house. And I'm like a Disney princess. I put nuts on the windowsill and they come to my window. And they greet me, and it's so amazing. So if you ever have a chance to rescue squirrels,
Do it.
You can rescue them, rehabilitate them, and release them back into the wild, and they'll be fine.
This is good to know. I mean, yes, despite the flat squirrel name, I am a fan. I break for that hesitating squirrel that can't decide whether or not to try to make it across the road. Because
It's true.
We've all been there. We've all not always known which way to go. So we try to be kind to the hesitating squirrel. Steph in particular is quite the animal lover. Although if we're doing any rescuing, I think we know what it's going to be.
Yes. So I am an animal lover, especially of dogs. So do you have any household pets that are more typical to
We have a pug. My sister just rescued our cat. The family just completely overtaken with allergies from our cat. So she took our cat a couple months ago, but we still have the pug. I grew up on a dairy farm, so for me, animals are outside and they serve a purpose. So that I'm the one rescuing squirrels, I think everybody's surprised because I'm not an animal person. Like that's the most bizarre mix for me, I think, is I'm not. Dogs belong outside, cats belong outside.
You just fell in love with the squirrels.
Is your pug an outside dog?
No,
Actually doesn't do well
he's
outside.
an inside dog.
He's really sweet. He likes to pee on things, but he's really sweet.
I want to jump back to the kind of your shop history, and again from your website, it said that you started the store, Jamie, a dream in his heart, a dime in his pocket, and youth on his side.
Correct.
Is it
Youth
still
is long gone.
is it still a dream though?
It's still a dream, yeah. Every day I think about opening new stores or coming to the store, and just sometimes we just come in the middle of the night and just stand in the store and look around because it's like a dream that we have it, and we love it so much.
And I do want to I want to clarify something every time we talk about it too, which is not on the website, and it probably should be. The only person who believed in us, I mean, imagine we're 18 and 20 years old and we go into a bank with a business plan.
They laughed at us.
They laughed at us. I mean, we went to a couple of banks for a loan, and my dad, he's like, here's some money to get started. He loaned us the money to get started, and that's without...
It wasn't a lot of money, but it was more than anybody else believed in us and gave us
Without
money.
that, we wouldn't be here today. Like, we literally would not have opened. We wouldn't have had the money. We wouldn't have had the volunteer hours that he's put in to help us build and move and do everything. So, like, a lot of props goes out to my dad who believed in us.
Yeah. Our first location we opened up was in this ran-down building in London, Ohio. We had to totally remodel the place. It didn't have electric or plumbing or anything. So the week that we opened the store, the dude immediately gave us an eviction notice. So we spent all the money we got from our father-in-law, and this dude just crushed our dreams and took it.
That's
So
horrible.
we totally moved across the street to this dump of a building that had like a river running through the basement of it. And we opened up there, and we were there. We made it work.
We were there for a couple of years.
We were there for a
and then-
couple of years.
Then somebody bought the building.
Somebody, the competitor on the street, which owned a baseball card store, wanted to expand into comic books, so he wanted us out of there. So he tried to buy the building. So we ended up finding another building. Well, the building that we're in right now. We packed up everything and we moved to Hilliard.
We moved next to the restaurant Starline Diner. If you're
Yes.
familiar with Hilliard, there was a hill that had Starline Diner on it. And we were there for a couple of years.
Yep.
And then they wanted to expand. So our landlord said, you need to go.
It's been terrible. It was a terrible run for us. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys couldn't
You
catch a
need to
break.
move
No.
because the restaurant wants to expand. And you can't curse a business for growing. Like, you really cannot do that. So we packed up again. There was my dad again helping us move,
Yep.
take down slat wall, put it back up. Until eventually we ended up in this plaza.
Yep.
And we've been here for almost 20 years now.
That's amazing. It's a little bit of a theme emerging this season on the podcast. There's another store that's featured, Cave Comics in Connecticut, in Newtown, Connecticut. And they recently relocated. They were sharing a space with a restaurant called Burgeritoville. And Burgeritoville, it is what it sounds like. They wanted to expand and take over the entire space. But they actually built a new structure for the comic shop.
Wow.
Oh, very nice.
Right next door.
Yeah.
But yeah, these expanding restaurants.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
No,
pushing the comic shops
you
around.
You can't be
No.
upset for a business succeeding and doing well and needing to expand. You
And
cannot.
look how you guys have expanded
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So it's really brought us to this final destination, which we couldn't we couldn't be more grateful for it. We've had such great landlords and such great opportunities here to run many of the events that we've done, many of the from the art school. Like, who can afford an extra space just to host an art school? Fortunately, our landlords and our plaza is so ridiculously inexpensive, we can do that. It's not something that every retailer has the opportunity to do, to just have, I don't know, what is this, 1,500 square feet just to sit empty? Because we don't do a lot of games. Like, we have games and we do games and we provide it, but it's not the focus of our business. And we understand the core focus of our business is comic books. So we try to stay focused on that. This is just, this is extra. And because we're here in such an affordable plaza, this is what we get.
With the store and moving the amount of times that you did you find that your customers tended to follow you?
No.
Not at all.
No. Moving is bad. We will never move from this place unless the building is torn down. No, generally speaking, when you move, you're going to lose a minimum of 20% of your base clients, just because now it's not a convenient location for them, regardless of where you move. And that happened. I mean, now obviously our first move out of London to Hilliard was a dramatic move. We still had a few clients, but you lose a lot of them when you move. And even just around Hilliard, and if you look statistically, people only like to travel within, I think it's 6 minutes of their house. They don't like to go far. So that 6 minutes on one side of Hilliard versus the other, why do you think there's 3 McDonald's in Hilliard? 3. And they are 6 minutes apart. Yep. I kid you not. So it's literally like people's convenience and the way they travel. Moving isn't the best option.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can imagine that being an issue for sure. So you've been in this current location for a while. Jamie, you were mentioning, thinking about, more stores and things like that.
Right.
What sort of long-term plans do you have for Packrat? If you're able to share. If not, that's okay.
I want more. I want lots of stores. I want this to be my town and my Ohio. So eventually I'll have all the stores in Ohio if Teresa lets me.
I'm just along for the ride. I make absolutely limited decisions and I sign checks. That's my job.
I go and I look at places and I just have them all in the back of my mind where I want to open these stores at. So eventually, we'll have more stores in Ohio. It's just a matter of time and when that I do it.
Yeah, on that note, what is sort of the balance between you two running the store? Because I mean, I'm sure there are other husband and wife teams out there, but I haven't come across too many, at least in my travels so far. So I'm curious what that dynamic is like.
I think it's a pretty equal partnership. We work really hard and really well together. We bounce a lot of ideas off one another. Teresa does most of all the bookkeeping to make sure I don't spend all the money on stuff, especially all the Silver Age that comes in. I just keep.
That's a fact.
That is
we
a
do
fact.
Not have a Silver Age section because it doesn't go out for sale.
I have a lot of Silver Age, by the way, but it's all mine.
Yeah, so I mean, are you guys? I know the answer to this, I guess, but would describe yourselves as collectors as well?
Not really.
Not really. I do a lot of. I do you can't really run a business and collect at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
they have to be willing to part.
It's rainy day stuff that I collect, but I am willing to part with most of it.
But they have to be willing to sell it to you for a decent price.
Yeah, a decent price, because I do keep it. And I do catch myself every once in a while. I collect artwork, so I'll do pages and stuff like that. So I do collect that, and we do collect Disney memorabilia and stuff like that. So we do collect stuff.
But not the stuff in the store. Like that's the thing, you have to be able to part with it. I can enjoy the Wonder Woman statue without bringing it home. I can enjoy that for the, little bit of time that I see it in a display case in the store, and let somebody else take it home. Because if I kept everything I wanted, I wouldn't have anything for sale. So I think early on you learn that you have to pay your bills.
Yeah, I think that can be a hard lesson to learn for a retailer, and not all retailers learn it, unfortunately.
Well, and this hobby, I mean, people don't go into it saying, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to be rich. They get into it because they love the hobby. They have a passion for it. And so we're not business people. We're going into this business with the idea of sharing our passion with everyone and sharing the things that we love and making everybody's day a little bit brighter for coming in. And in the dark world that we live in, to come in and smile over superheroes.
Yeah, we opened our store when we were 20 years old. So, no education. We learned as we went.
Yeah, on-the-job training.
On-the-job training.
Yeah.
Well, when Alternate Realities was closing, Steph, we had like a kind of a legitimately serious conversation about buying the store and keeping it open. Do you remember that?
You were serious about that? We did. We've had several. I mean, certainly at that time when the closing was coming, but even since then, had conversations about, if this is his passion. I don't read typically. I pick up a few things here and there, but I'm very into the characters and the movies and television shows. So, I mean, it really has been serious conversations because it's like you get to be your own boss. It's something that we love and enjoy and love talking about with each other. And I think we would have probably a similar dynamic that you've described as a husband and wife team, balancing each other out as well. So you're living the dream and you've kept it alive for more than 20 years.
We are looking to open up more stores.
Another reason to
There
come
you
to
go, guys.
Right? We'll help you take over
Franchise.
Columbus.
Or, if we
We
just,
do have people. It is, you talk about that. We have a lot of people that have approached us about franchising the store, but we're very protective of our brand. We've
I can appreciate
we've spent
that.
a long time establishing who we are as individuals because it's an extension of us, and just to give it up to somebody is not something we're really comfortable doing. We did make an offer to a friend who was talking about opening, and we're like, I think you would be a good fit if you want. Now, obviously he went a different way, but that's okay.
He went with the same color scheme, though.
But no, I mean, there's a lot of brand recognition. I think that was part of the success of our Marysville store when Bobby opened that. It was like, oh, it's another Packrat. We know what it's going to be like when we walk in, and that's the goal, is to make it feel just like when you walk into the Hilliard store. So that's very important to us as individuals, that it is part of who we are.
No, I can respect that. How far away is the other store?
About 25 minutes.
Yeah, about 25 minutes, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Out of that 6-minute range.
Right.
Yeah.
You could put 2 more in between here and there.
I don't think there's anything in between here and there. Cornfields.
Yeah, I mean, our conversations aside, I mean, I don't know that, I don't know if owning and running my own store is really what I want to do. I love talking about comic shops. I think, though, what appeals to me most and what I kind of want to touch on next is really the community aspect of it. The reason why I do this, the reason why there was a whole season when our store closed, was really about the people and the community that formed there. Now, obviously, I only got to see a little bit of your store yesterday, on a Thursday as it was closing, although it was, again, a steady stream of customers. I was impressed with the flow, the traffic flow at that point. But so what is the community atmosphere like? Like, what's it like here on a Wednesday?
Busy?
Yeah, it's very busy.
There's
There's a lot of conversations up at the front window. They like to gather there in the chairs. We talk comics and movies, and
I think
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
the story of when Michael lost his job. We had one of our customers lost his job, and he came to the store. He was very limited in his circle of friends. Really, at the time, it was mostly just us. And he came into the store, and he would sit on the couch. And he ended up developing some friendships with people that he didn't know outside of that. And I think that, in a nutshell, is what comic book stores become. They become a place where you have a passion, and the person that walks in the door shares a similar passion, and you can create that bond just on that, whether you like Superman or Batman, whether it's Iron Man or the Hulk. It's still generally that connection that you've got, that you're not going to go just by seeing the movie or just by going down the toy aisle or something. Being a fan of music, I think you kind of have that too when you go into music stores. But over the course of the 2 years that he was unemployed, he ended up developing several great friendships that he now goes to conventions with, and he gets to hang out with these guys and celebrates birthdays and Christmases. And he didn't have that before. And I think that, to me, is probably the single greatest success of a comic book store, is to connect people with each other, because we're all kind of just floating along in our own little world, not realizing who we're missing or what we could be contributing to someone else's life. And that right there is That's it. And that's happened more than one occasion. And I hate to use that specific example, but on multiple occasions, we've had people that have lost jobs, that have spent time and kind of found their purpose in their way just by coming in and visiting. And I think the way...
A lot of people that normally wouldn't hang out with one another.
Right. The way we're so outgoing and passionate and just we enjoy it, it does spread and it becomes contagious. And even the people that come in that don't talk will eventually start talking. And they won't just start talking to us, they'll start talking to other people and they make those connections. So they may come in and they'll be quiet and shy and reserved, but then after a couple of visits, because we don't like to treat anybody like they're strangers.
Yep. They're all part of our family.
So, they come in and eventually, they've just, within a couple of Wednesdays, they've made new friends and they're like, hey, and they know that they come there at the same time. And so you see them kind of showing up at the same time and excited to see that new friend. And it's really, really rather magical. And then it's also, it makes you feel old when you watch them bring their kids in. You're like, oh, and now your kids are 5.
No, I mean, well said. I think that definitely is what, can set a comic shop apart from any other kind of retail establishment, is the ability to do that. And, comic book fans, despite maybe the stereotype of being socially awkward, maybe that can happen or there can be shyness or whatever. But, in the right environment and surrounded by the right people, it's really amazing.
They're really not.
Yeah. I mean, are you guys typically starting conversations or how does that typically happen?
Yes, we start the conversation. Yeah. Selling them books, that's how we do it.
Well, it served you well. I mean, you're not just any store, you're an Eisner Award winning store. So a couple of years back, you won the Eisner Award for the spirit of retailing.
Yep.
How does one win that? What is that process?
Somebody nominates you, and then you slam the packet on the ground and you're like, oh, you rascals. We'd been nominated several times, and you have a packet that you have to fill out that you have to show and somehow document your knowledge of the industry of retailing. You have to document your community outreach. You have to document so much stuff. And the first time we were nominated, I think the packet ended up being 150 pages,
like 4 inches thick,
which was a bit overwhelming, obviously, because they're going through so many nominees. And then you also have to make a 5-minute video about your store, how it's set up and why it's set up. So there's a lot of little retailing secrets. So nobody will ever see our video because it's full of like little retailing secrets that we don't like to talk about. How we get you to buy things,
mapping traffic and stuff like that.
Right. So, so you submit that, and then a panel of judges will look to see, and it's a point system, and if you earn the highest points, you're the winner. And we won, and it was great. It was the best feeling I think that we'd had in winning an award. I don't think we'd ever won an award before.
No, we never won an award before. The first time that we got nominated, we went to San Diego. We were so excited. We went to the, what is it? Were they...
The dinner?
The dinner part.
Yeah,
we were sitting there all excited. And there was other comic book store retailers that were sitting there all excited too. And once they started, it's the last thing that they talk about. They give out the awards. They say, here, and these retailers did all these awesome things. And they didn't call our name. And I was crushed, but not as crushed as another comic retailer, which cried and ran out of the room.
Wow.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's an honor to be nominated, absolutely. An absolute honor that your customers or someone thinks that you're worth being noticed.
Right.
And the more we looked into the process, and again, like we had been nominated several years in a row, the more, frustrating it was to lose every year. You're like, oh, wow. Thanks for nominating me, but I'm losing. And
I don't want to lose again.
That's no fun. And my OCD is making me submit this information every year. And so you just keep modifying it a little bit. And and then we won. And it was great. And he, with his T-shirts, it's like, the NCAA championship. He's in here in the morning at 1 o'clock in the morning screening these T-shirts like, winners!
I did not believe we won.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
I had to go to the internet to find out for sure.
There's a card game, Magic the Gathering, and we had a pre-release, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was here that Friday night of when they announced the winner. Like, we weren't even paying attention to whether or not we won. And I got an email that popped up, somebody had Twitter notification, and I'm like, I don't do Twitter. What is this? And I clicked on it, and it says, congratulations for winning the Eisner. And I'm like, what? So instantly the Queen's We Are the Champions started playing nonstop for like 2 hours in the store at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm very glad that we had a separate game space, so everybody was over here in this space while we were jamming We Are the Champions.
T-shirts.
I called Jamie at home, and I'm like, we won. And he's like, what? And he yells at our youngest son, bring me the internet. Like, I swear to God, that's what he said, bring me the internet, because he didn't believe that that was a thing. And he's
that might have to be the title of this episode, by the way.
So I went home and picked him up and brought him back up. He's like, I'm making T-shirts. And so we have these Eisner Award winning T-shirts that he made, because the next day we were doing our Not at Comic Con event, and we were just like giving them away. So we were
so tired that day.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Yeah. Well, we were running how exciting that was.
Yeah, I mean, it's like winning a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Oscars or something. Like, that's what it is, because you can only win it once.
Oh, okay.
So once you win it, you're one and done, and we're done. So now we're winners.
Won, and now that stress is removed. You don't have to go through that every year.
Well, because they send you the request for documentation during Free Comic Book Day.
Right.
So
that's when they send it.
For 5 years, For 5 years, I was nominated, and I would get the information before Free Comic Book Day, and I would have to submit it like 2 weeks after.
2 weeks later.
So you're talking putting all this information, what you did last year, creating this video, and it's a 5-minute video. We have no experience, and it would take us a week to record. And when I say a week, I mean like 8 hours a day filming ourselves to say the right thing. It got to the point, I think our final submission was footage, and I just talked over it.
Yep, that was the best.
Like that, in front of a camera.
Sometimes that's the most efficient way to bang it out.
Yeah, we would be in front of the camera, and it would take us 3 hours to say a sentence. And we had friends one year, they made the video for us, and he's like, no, you just have to say this. I swear to God, it took an hour.
It was like 3 lines.
An hour for us to say 3 lines.
Yeah, there's some great video after that, of losing our minds on these stupid lines.
We're not any good at that. And that's why it amazes me that he does such a great job on the videos. And all of it's unscripted when he does that.
Yeah, it's all unscripted.
Yeah, the video, I mean, going back to that, it does fascinate me. Now, again, I didn't have the opportunity to see you behind the counter, Jamie. Which version of you do customers get behind the counter?
I don't know. They get me. I guess me.
It's like
he reads almost every comic book.
Every single book that comes in.
He can talk to anybody about anything, regardless of what you're interested in. He can find that book that you wouldn't think you would read. We had a gentleman come in after we won the Eisner. The Dispatch had done a big paper. We were on TV, and we had a guy come in. He's like, I want to buy a comic book. You guys are winners. I want to buy a comic, my first comic from a winner. And we're like, well, what do you like? And he's like, well, just give me anything. And I'm like, but I want to get you something that you're going to read. And my oldest son had walked in, and he started talking to the guy, and he's like, oh, well, you need to check out, if you like this, you need to check out this. And next thing you know, he's reading all of Ed Brubaker's stuff, Fatale. He's tweeting him online like, hey, thanks to Packrat, they introduced me to this stuff. And so that's really what we do, is we find the books that match the people. And the only way you can do that is if you read them all, and that's literally what he does. And this way, it does get frustrating to read all the negative online about the comics industry, but when you read it and you enjoy it and you can share that, I think that's why we're so successful.
I love every single comic. I can find, something in each book that I absolutely love. There's, some stuff that's not so great in it, but I don't focus on that stuff. I just focus on what I like in a comic. And if I don't like that comic, I'm not going to pitch that comic to you or sell you that comic. I had a creator from Image come in the other day, and he comes in a lot, and we were talking about comics, and he goes, the first time I came into the store, you pitched me my comic book, and you pitched it so well that I wanted to buy that comic book from you. And that is now the pitch that we use to sell our comic to people. So it made me feel really good that way, but then, I felt bad because I didn't realize who I was selling the comic book to, but, I don't focus on who writes it or who draws it or anything like that. So come to our store and I won't recognize you creators. So
you get honest feedback.
Right, you'll get honest feedback on your books, what I really actually think of them. But the version you get of Jamie in the store is a high energy Jamie. So he's kind of the guy that's on the screen. So that's who you get when you come in. So sorry.
That's why you guys are the Eisner Award winners. That when someone comes in and says, "I just want any comic," because you won, you take the time to actually find something that would work for them. I gotta say, I've been having such a great time talking with you guys. Is there anything? There are a couple other things I want to get to, but is there anything about your store that you'd particularly like to share, especially if it's something that maybe you don't often get the opportunity to talk about, or that you don't get asked when you do an interview or a panel or something like that?
I don't know. I like my entire store. I try and talk about it as much as I can. Is there any one particular thing that you like?
I like that I get to go to work every day with my husband.
Yeah.
I don't like it that you're in the Marysville store now that our son is not there as often.
It is hard to be apart.
That's why I'm not like he's let's grow a big empire, and I'm like, I just want to be with my husband, and I can't do that when you want to grow.
That's very sweet. Well, I mean, we work together too. We're in different buildings, but it's a small campus. So I mean, we're in the we go to work together too, and we have lunch together. I mean, do you enjoy that, dear?
Very much, dear.
Now we'll ask the same question in 24 years. Yeah, but I don't know. There's we've just been so fortunate. I think overall we've had such great luck. We've worked hard.
It wasn't all great luck right away.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But everything led us to here.
Yeah, it led us to this point.
Like the things that we've learned along the way. Even though, like when we were first evicted from that space, when he's like, "Hey, you're evicted." Immediately we're like, well, what did we learn? Right. We will always sign a contract. We won't take somebody by the, yes, your word is strong, but we're still going to sign a contract. So, I mean, and that's something that we've done the entire time is even when things are bad from one point of view, we always tend to look at it as a learning opportunity. We've never been a negative, poor me, I can't believe this happened. We just packed up and moved on and did the next thing. I mean, and I think that's been the best part because there's so much negativity that could keep you down. Like we could have easily been like, oh, I guess it's over. We lost our space.
I think, most people just gave up at that time, but not us big dummies. We just kept going. Kept going.
Well, I'm a huge Rocky fan. I say, obviously you wouldn't know. The listeners know. Big Rocky fan. And it's all about being able to take the hits and get back up and keep moving forward. And it sounds like that's what you guys have done. If I or someone else were to come to you and say, I'm thinking of opening my own store, aside from, getting everything in writing, is there any other advice you would offer to retailers who are just starting out? Or maybe not, I mean, that is one piece of it. And then also anyone who maybe has been doing this for a while and maybe getting burnt out. Any advice for either or both of those groups?
Stay out of Ohio.
It's my Ohio. Stay out.
I think that one of the big things when getting burnt out, because that happens, we know we've got Free Comic Book Day, we do a lot of events throughout the year, and we do get exhausted, and you do need to take time off. You need to, and that's what we're talking about, taking a vacation. We don't take a lot of vacation time during the year. We take 1 week and we just completely just leave it all. Like as long as the store doesn't burn down when we're gone, whoever's managing it, go for it. Thumbs up. Right. Don't message me. I'm not going to get back to you because this is your problem. You figure out, to be straight up, you need that time to decompress and get away.
You have to make that time.
You have to make that time because you will get burnt out and it'll show, and your relationship with the customers will suffer. So if you're feeling burnt out, step back, take some time away and recharge your energies. And if you come back and you're like, this isn't what I want to do, I just don't want to, because it's a customer service job. If you don't want to deal with retail and people, then maybe it's time to step away. But if you love it and you enjoy it, then that break is going to give you that opportunity to recharge yourself. If you want to open a store,
don't do it.
No.
In Ohio.
No.
You can do it not in Ohio.
It's really tough. But you're going to have a lot of money today because of the merchandise that goes along with the comic book store anymore. It's not just comic books and back issues, which was really easy when we opened up. We opened up with $2,000.
Yeah, but it was 6 long boxes of comic books and our personal collection of stuff.
It was nothing. But
how we made it, I have no idea.
But that was 25 years ago. You can't do that today. You need a lot of trade paperbacks. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, and you guys are very well stocked.
Yeah, you need a lot of that. You just need a mix of everything until you figure out what your clients are going to enjoy, and that's that's what you have to figure out as a new retailer, is just because you enjoy it doesn't mean that they're going to enjoy it. So there's a lot of that goes along with the business itself. It's like, oh, well, I don't understand why you enjoy that, but I'll listen to you talk about your passion. I'm not Transformers. I can watch the movies. I remember the cartoons, but I couldn't tell you the names of all of the Transformers. But I'll sit there and listen to somebody go on about it and be excited about it. And that's what you have to do as a retailer.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours open up a store here the last couple of months. They opened up with $20,000, and I thought to myself, what are you going to buy with just $20,000? Good luck.
It takes a lot more money today.
It takes a lot of money to open up a store. So if anybody out there is thinking about doing it, open up with a lot of capital. Try and go to a bank and get a loan. They might laugh at you, but times have changed. They may not laugh at you now. Don't open up thinking you're going to make a lot of money. Open up with the passion that you like to sell comic books, and you love the industry. So it's a hard industry, but it is a very fun industry, and you'll love it.
I mean, speaking of the industry, and I guess Packrat's place in that. We talked about delinquent customers. Any other particular challenges that you guys feel are facing retailers, perhaps even more so now than before?
I think the constant relaunching of lines by Marvel hurts them and prevents long-term loyalty. So we've had to find other books. I think the Aftershock series was a great one, as people were burnt out on Marvel when they did a relaunch. Aftershock came out with some great stuff. Valiant's got some great stuff. Image has some great stuff. So there's a lot of that you have to be willing to read outside of the main two publishers to fill that void when everybody's burned out with the big two. I mean, that's the key, is you can't just stay reading what your favorite is, because sometimes, they don't write good stories or they don't draw them well and you just don't want to read it. So by being that resource to your readers, they know and they can trust your judgment. And I think everybody trusts Jamie. I mean, they're like, oh, I like this, so what do you recommend I read? And he'll tell them, and they've never been disappointed. I can't think of a single time anybody's come in and have been like,
this book was stupid. No, it doesn't happen.
I mean, it seems like most of these customer interactions are positive. I mean, again, having spent a lot of time at a store, I imagine there might be some pet peeves that you experience as retailers. Are there any, or any that you'd be willing to share?
Just not picking up your books. That's
a big one.
That's the big one for me.
I don't understand. And when you came in, we're in a weird plaza. Like, there's no reason to come to this plaza.
No.
I don't understand how people just come in and be like, oh, I'm just looking around.
The browsers.
You came here for something. How do you leave without getting something? You walked into the store. You went out of your way to get here. I'm not next to a Kroger's. I'm not next to any big movie theater. I'm tucked away, hidden. You had to get here. You drove here. You got out of your car and walked into the store, and you have no desire for anything in here. Like, that boggles my mind, how you can just wander and not find anything that's really fun and really cool in the store.
I think out in our Marysville store, the biggest thing for me is because we're downtown, and we're next to a Mexican restaurant, and we get people in all day long that just, the worst thing for me is when they walk through the door and they tell their kids, we're not buying nothing, and then they walk around for 35 minutes and then ask 10,000 questions on remote control cars or spinners or things they know you don't have, and then they leave. And you feel awful. Like, that just crushes you inside. But then you get the next person that comes through that enjoys comics or has never read a comic in their life that comes through, and you can throw your passion at them and then get them to buy comics and start in the industry there. So it's a love-hate with me out in Marysville with some of that stuff.
I think as much as people think the movies have brought a lot of people to comic book stores, while they have to some degree, I think the biggest media thing out there that have brought more consumers to the store is a show that I absolutely despise, Big Bang Theory. You laugh.
That's interesting.
But because they've put a comic book store on primetime television, that's a neat place to go now. I'm going to go to the comic book store. No other movie or television show has done more to bring in customers than Big Bang Theory. And as much as I hate the question, do you make $1.82 an hour? Do you live in your basement? You know, do you still live at home with your mom and dad? No.
Yes, please buy some comics so I can move out of my parents' basement. That's what I go with.
That's a good answer, yeah.
But no, it's... And I'm not a fan of the show at all. I wish I could enjoy it because they're laughing at the things that I love versus laughing with them.
No, that's an interesting point. I mean, you know, we do watch. I mean, we've watched for, you know, all these 10 seasons, and, you know, we enjoy the show, but yeah, certainly on the comic book front and all the pop culture, you know, pieces of it, you know, the comic book fans that we see on that show are the stereotype that they just continue to perpetuate. And yeah, there are certainly plenty of references. So like if you're a fan of all of this stuff, it's like, oh, I know what they're talking about. But yeah, it never quite feels like it's coming from a place of love.
Nope.
It's like, you know, they know where they're going to get their laughs, and I think that's it.
And I especially take issue, and we've discussed this before, of Penny always being so mean, to put it plainly, I mean, really mean to her husband for those same reasons. And it's just crushing. It's like, what? And it's gotten worse, I think, over the seasons, where I think maybe the show started as a loving comedy of this community that a lot of people that wasn't necessarily mainstream and people didn't know about. But it's, I think, yes, increasingly become more of a mainstream show that pokes fun at this culture and their relationships.
That mocks and insults and belittles those that have that passion.
Yeah, like Penny does it all the time. I agree, and we've become increasingly frustrated with her. She doesn't bring as much to the table as she thinks she does.
Yes.
But yeah, regardless, 10 seasons has brought interest into the industry.
Well, we've gotten to that point where it's just about opening time. So I will let you guys go. But before I do, anything else that you would like to say, and in particular, any particularly memorable customer interactions or stories that come to mind?
We have had customers that have been with us the entire time, and that's very exciting. You know, like Robert is one of our customers that's been with us for at least 24 years. He's here every week, so I just appreciate every customer that comes through the door and stays with us.
Do you socialize outside of the store, or is it mainly confined to Packrat with your customers?
No, we socialize outside the store.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, well, I mean, on that note of community, I mean, that's what this is all about, and I thank you so much for welcoming us and listeners to the Packrat community. It's really been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. So thank you to Teresa, Jamie, and of course, Stephanie. And thank you to everyone who tuned in for this episode. Please keep listening, and don't be a flat squirrel.
Aww.
Thank you again for listening. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to head on over to iTunes and subscribe to My Comic Shop History. While you're there, please also subscribe to my other podcast series, Flat Squirrel Tales, Beyond My Comic Shop. Flat Squirrel Tales is all new next week with a discussion of the new Power Rangers movie, so you don't want to miss it. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DesiWestside, like the My Comic Shop History page on Facebook, and sign up for the Flat Squirrel newsletter at flatsquirrelproductions.com. I really do appreciate it. Remember, hesitation kills.